Hello, everybody. Welcome to International Student Stories, a special podcast residency presented by Study in the USA in partnership with Los Angeles City College. I'm your host, Soleil Perrin, and today I'm joined by Luis Martinez. Luis began his journey at Los Angeles City College, where he discovered and developed his passion for game design, digital storytelling, and creative technology. Through his studies and experiences at LACC, he built the foundation that helped him transfer to UCLA in 2024, where he's now pursuing a degree in design media arts. Today, we'll talk about creativity, game design, world building, and what it means to create experiences that leave a lasting impact on the people who play them. Luis, welcome to International Student Stories.
Thank you for having me.
So, Luis, to start off, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what kind of first sparked your interest in games and digital media?
I've always been here in this general area in LA. I live really close by to LACC. Seeing all the students hanging out around campus and exploring whatever events are happening at LACC was something that was always a part of me, especially growing up. For me, I focus a lot on art, so that's been my passion since I was really little. I've always just been trying to create art, whether it's drawing or expanding my horizons and doing a little bit more sculpture work, and more recently, following a passion in game design and animation as well. Currently, I'm also focusing on education as a career path. So yeah, I've been exploring a little bit of what school is and who I am as a person. So that's a little bit of what I've been up to recently. In terms of what sparked my interest in game design, I've always liked playing games, especially a lot of like storytelling. I remember when the Xbox 360 first came out, and my first game was The Amazing Spider-Man, after that, the Andrew Garfield movie, and that was my first game that I've played, which ever since then sparked the pathway of playing a lot of story-driven games, adventure games, and following a lot of films and a lot of artwork that features a lot of narratives and world building and storytelling that I can be in tune with and something that I value in a lot.
So going off of that, do you have a favorite game, like your favorite game of all time?
Probably the most recent one, Resident Evil Requiem. That's been my top favorite so far.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. So heading off a little bit into education, what was your experience like at LACC?
It's been a mixture of different emotions, and it's really hard to pop in like a word for it. But it's been one of the most rewarding and amazing points of my life. Even though I only spent 2 years here, it's been the most influential and the most meaningful. Even as I'm going to UCLA, I think it's more impactful than my time at UCLA. And it drives from how I ended off with high school. A lot of it was I just felt defeated. My professors and my friends at the time made me feel like I would amount to nothing and left me feeling like I was a failure and school wasn't an option for me anymore. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how high school ended for me. But something clicked. Maybe the fact that I grew up right across the street from the school, or seeing so many students coming in, and maybe the message of what the school stands for and just creating a new future for myself maybe triggered an idea of enrolling and seeing what happens. Because yeah, a big embarrassing moment of it was in high school, I got rejected from every school that I applied to. Everyone got into Cal State LA or Cal State Northridge. Everyone could get into those schools, but because of how terrible my grades were and like I didn't participate in any extracurriculars, and I was so distanced from the idea of school and trying to fit in and being the worst version of myself. Like I wasn't able to pursue a 4-year at the time. So community college was that option for me to better myself and see what school could be like outside of...
See what was possible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I still remember that summer after graduation, there was the enrollment fair in 2022 where all the students can come in to like the main quad, and there's tens of different programs, and you can enroll to the school, sign up for financial aid, and meet different professors and different programs as well. And I kind of just went in curious. I already was admitted into the school and I already had my classes, but I wanted to see what the programs were like. Because when you first enroll here at LACC, you get guided by the first year experience, they call it. It was a great program. It helped me navigate my first year here, and they help you pick out your first set of classes, but you're in that disconnect because you don't really know what the classes are like and what the programs are. So it's very much your general education or general ed classes as well. So this was out of curiosity. I went in and wanted to see what the programs were like. For a while, I stopped doing art all through high school. So, but I always knew I wanted to do art. It was just such a big part of me, and it was something that I really wanted to explore. And I stopped by the art booth, and I still remember our former department chair, Alex Weissenfeld, greeted me and was asking me what I was looking for, what interests me and stuff. And I mentioned animation at the time because at that moment, I didn't know game design was an option as a career or was a thing. And it's really interesting to think about. People do these careers, and growing up, we imagine like they just come out. But now being part of that world, it's really fascinating to me seeing it takes so many people to make these games. And back then it was more of this game came out, but who made it? It wasn't.
You don't see the journey and the people behind it.
I didn't really care for who made it or which studio the games came out of. It was more of it had Batman on it or it had Spider-Man on it, and that's all I really cared about. So it wasn't really something that was brought up to me. I knew animation was a career because of my middle school. There was an animation sequence there that I took. But yeah, Alex was asking me all these questions, and then that sparked that interest, and she called over our current head of the program for game art and design here at LACC, as well as the animation program. He was an interesting character. We connected almost like I knew he could change my life in a way that I didn't know to what extent it could be. It was my calling, almost like I felt like I needed to go on with this program and explore. But yeah, he got up, he was hiding in the back. He shook my hand and he showed me the program sequence, and he kind of was like, I heard you were interested. And like, it was this friendly, really short conversation we had. We're both very socially awkward, so it was really awkward, but I started taking his classes, and eventually it created this need to keep being in school. And I'm not a big math person or an English or general education person, so the idea of like I have these fun classes here at LACC and something that I was really passionate about allowed me to really bear with all of the other classes and almost have fun with them as well. Because I knew the reward was I could keep taking more classes that I was really passionate about, and I could maybe get a degree out of it, or I still wasn't really like, I still didn't really know what was going to be my future or what I really wanted to achieve. But yeah, I took his first game class that he offered here, but starting off compared to my high school classes and everything else, that was the most interesting and the most compelling class to me. And seeing how passionate he was about the craft and how devoted he was to his students almost made me really interested in following along and keep exploring what the program had to offer. And it kind of just evolved. I kept taking a little bit more classes, and he came up to me and he told me he was starting the game art and design program, and the classes were going to be offered that spring. And I signed up like right off the bat as soon as he told me. And since then, it was history.
The rest is history.
This was the one thing that I felt like I was really good at right off the bat. I think the experience here at LACC was really impactful because I got to meet so many different people. So it's really, really interesting seeing how things evolved from this little tiny program that was created 2 years ago and now is a catalyst for these relationships as well as these bonds and this creativity and a lot of self-expression.
It seems like LACC is a really great kind of place for community and acceptance. That seems to be the general consensus. All right, so we have a question about games. So do you think games are becoming a global storytelling language, and do you think they're a way to share cultures? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
Games have always been a part of our society, and that's something that I've been learning, especially following the education pathway and seeing how games have been a crucial part of education. But games are very much unique in that sense of whoever's designing them gets to really choose what type of games there are. you can do a lot more competitive games like Rocket League or Marvel Rivals or Fortnite. And some other storytellers really focus on creating stories that people connect with, whether it's culturally or just emotionally. It's really up to whoever's developing the game and who's creating them that is taking that charge. But it's really up to what type of game you're creating. It's a really beautiful craft that a lot of game designers, especially younger designers, are starting to create for themselves. A lot of just story-driven that represents a part of themselves or are trying to tell stories that they hold really dear to their hearts. And it's something that's been really much blossoming. The Latinx communities have festivals representing Latinx games, and there's so much festivals that are going around the world, and it's been a growing force over the last few years.
Yeah, so that connects actually to my next question. So why are diverse voices important in game development and in the game industry?
Well, I think cultures are very unique, and each person has their own story to tell within their cultures, as well as who they are, their experiences growing up, and who they are as a person. And especially for games in a lot of diverse communities, it's important to get that diversity out there. It's not just a one content wagon or, I guess, force field. So now everything is going on to each other. It creates a sense of community within everyone. You don't have to be a certain race or come from a certain community to be able to enjoy games. Mm-hmm. What I love about games, it's so diverse. You can pick any language you want to play with. If you only speak Spanish, you can play games in Spanish or in Chinese or in Japanese. Most modern games come with that option to enjoy the experience within your own confines, which I really value in terms of accessibility for everyone and being able to share the story within a lot of people.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know that much about the gaming industry, but I've even seen recently people know more about different cultures because they play games about this culture, and then they're more interested in stuff like that. So that's really, really interesting, especially hearing it from someone who's a little bit more behind the scenes with that. And then, so what has surprised you most about the gaming industry?
I think growing up, especially being part of a diverse community, it's something that I probably would have never been able to experience. Art hasn't been something that my family or my heritage has, or I guess my relatives have been a really big part of. So to me, I'm discovering it for myself for the first time and being able to navigate that on my own. I think the biggest part for me was seeing how close of a community it is, especially working in games. There are a lot of solo devs or a lot of single people doing games on their own, but the reality is you need a team to produce games, especially larger scale games. So it's really interesting seeing how different cultures and different people get together and create something that represents each part of themselves as well. It's been a unique experience, I think, especially the current project that our lead of the program here at LACC and I are part of, having people from different parts of the world, such as Brazil or Spain or London. Everyone's collaborating together, and we're telling a story that we all stand behind. And it's been an interesting experience just seeing how our voices combine.
Do you want to talk a little bit? Are you allowed to talk about a little bit more about what you're working on right now, or is it secret?
It's a little bit secret, but I can mention it a little bit because it relates to the experience here at LACC as well. I met the game designer here at LACC through an event that was happening in 2023, and he came in to talk to us about the arts in everything 3D, such as animation, texturing, rigging, and ever since then, I kept in touch with him, and I'm really grateful for that experience. Matt, who is the game director, has been such an influential person to me and a really big mentor, and I'm grateful to have him in my life right now. So it's been a great experience in being able to work with my professor here and my mentor as well and creating something together. In terms of that project, I guess I can share a little bit. We currently have a social media for it, which I will share after the podcast. But I guess think about photography and The Last of Us merged together.
Okay, interesting.
So it's a little bit more action-oriented, but instead of you having weapons or a gun, you have a camera.
Wow.
That's as much as I can say.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing more about that. That sounds really interesting. And so what makes interactive storytelling like games different from something like film or theater?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I think knowing what the difference between the two is very important. When you're in the movies or you're watching a film or a television show, you're actively watching it, but you're not participating within it. So you're watching it from your eyes, and you can't really do anything apart from paying attention to that, versus more interactive content. In terms of interactive games, you're actively being present. You're controlling the main character or a character or an object as well, depending on what you're playing, and you're making those choices. So there's sometimes games where you have different outcomes.
That's really interesting. Where do your ideas come from? Just life or dreams, imagination?
I tend to create anything that pops in my head. During my time here at LACC, I would like to call myself a little bit goofy in terms of like I would create the most childish or more children-driven projects compared to my current work now. But a lot of it stems from what I value in art and what type of art I want to create.
And so when you're building a game, like a game world, what usually comes first? Is it the story or the characters or the visuals or the mechanics?
I recently took a world building class, and that's something that we discussed here at UCLA. A lot of people would like to start off with characters. A lot of people will be character driven or more world driven, and it depends on the approach you will take, whether it's the character that will have an effect on the world or the world will have an effect on the character. In some projects of mine, I will either start off with a character, or sometimes it will start with the idea of what's going to happen in the world, and then the character comes in and the world affects the character's progression. But it just really depends on kind of where the ideas stem from.
Mm-hmm. So what is your favorite part of the creative process?
I think it's being free to be creative and to express myself and kind of worry about polishing and the fine details afterwards. Mm-hmm. I think for me, when I'm being creative, it stems from being in a state of flow and creating until I'm good enough to step back and look at what I currently have. A lot of it's a creative process for me. It stems from working with other people and seeing what other people have created, as well as getting their thoughts. So for me, it's a little bit more collaborative, being able to connect with more people.
And then what is the most challenging part?
I'm still a student, and I don't have that level of experience compared to someone that has 15 years. I'm still pretty new to everything, so my knowledge is pretty limited to a lot of the things I might want to create, especially in games. You might have an idea, but your knowledge or your skill set might be not up to par to be able to create that. So coming in terms with what you're able to create or using other tools or can help jump over that hurdle.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about your art and your idea of weaving art into games?
Something a professor passed on to me was actually here during the gallery show, showing off student work. He brought up to my attention the difference between fine arts and digital commercial art. I can't quote him exact words, but he mentioned that fine art is more individual and it's a for you art craft. It's a more expressive of who you are. Versus commercial art, yes, you're getting paid to create that art, but in the end, that commercial gets posted. Either you're making a movie or you're making a video game, and that gets to be expressed or enjoyed by different people.
For other people, rather than for
that's
yourself.
how I'm seeing the art form. Whether you're making a movie, an animation, or music, it's very much for the people instead of fine art is more of that self-expression of who you are. Not saying that fine art is a bad thing. We all need fine arts, and it's an essential part of the arts, but that's what I really enjoy about being part of that community of digital media artists and exploring the commercial art, because it's so much more than yourself. You're creating for other people, and seeing how art brings joy to people, I really respect. It's something that I want to pursue. Not so much creating art that is for me, even if it makes one person happy or feel something, that would make my day. That whether it's something people can relate to or just stop for a quick second, think it's cool, or it just sucks.
To be enjoyed by someone else other than yourself.
I created a game while I was still here, a student here at LACC before I transferred. And I worked on it a little bit at my start of UCLA, where I make this cactus game. So you play as a sheriff, kind of Rango style, but you're saving your little ranch and your little town from water pollution and pollution bandits. But it's a little bit more cheerful and more kid-like, which created this nice warmth to it compared to some more darker tones that I would take sometimes, where I play a lot with black and white or horror. I'm a big horror person, so I always tend to switch off between the two, whether I'm trying to make something a little bit more fun-like versus something more sad and more emotional. I like to take those two directions and exploring both of them. That current project that I'm not really allowed to talk about yet, it's a little bit more in between, exploring a little bit more of that action, being more present in the moment. But I currently did a project for my capstone 2 weeks ago was the opening for the show, where I made a horror game representative of mental health and a folklore creature in Mexico, La Llorona. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
I think
that story.
Yes, yeah.
But I created a horror game based off of her and reflecting the idea of mental health, as I've gone through a couple mental health episodes myself, thinking about what mental health is and how it affects people differently and how people manifest mental health into different aspects in their lives, whether it's more physical pain or emotional, or they actually manifest it into something. I really wanted to explore it, especially researching a little bit more about her story. And it was really interesting trying to figure out where her story came from. But there was it's kind of like a dead end. There's just so many different versions, and I couldn't pinpoint exactly where the root of the story originated from. But it was really sad and really amazing seeing how her story has been adapted to over the last few years and over centuries, and seeing how negatively the story has been told, especially to oppress women, and creating also an opportunity for women to express themselves through plays and storytelling and script writing as well. It's something that I've learned that has been taking place, which has been amazing, seeing how women have been able to take her story and turn it from something negative that governments and different people have used against them and turn it into something more beautiful and representative of who they are as well, which to me helped influence a little bit of that project as well. But yeah,
so interesting.
But the game was a little bit more representative of that story that I've been wanting to tell for so long. It's a little bit more representation of myself, my family, and those hurdles, and sharing a little bit of that story in a more art-driven way and utilizing that story to help amplify a lot of more emotions and connect a little bit more of my culture onto my art form as well.
Wow. It's really interesting also how much research goes into these games. It's like, I know someone who plays Assassin's Creed and it's doing the Greek one, and there's so much history in there. So I think that's interesting how much thought and history goes into those. So is there a moment or like a really specific moment or memory that felt really special or stuck with you or impacted you from your time at LACC, or an achievement of sorts?
It was probably it was a sequence of different things. Obviously, like passing math was like one of the greatest achievements of my life, being able to like never take math again.
Yeah.
But I think knowing that I could create these bonds, especially with our current professor and with our peers, we have this class called Production Studio where we develop our own games within our groups. We form teams and we pitch ideas, we create the games, and we present them at the end of the course. But I remember the first time it was offered, it was really impactful seeing our 3 teams making really creative projects, and we all came in together and we created something great that is still featured on the website, and we still carry on our portfolios. But I think the most successful parts was also there was a CTE award ceremony. I think they did it last year too, but in 2024, my professor and I won that award.
Congratulations.
I think knowing that we were recognized and like more so like we were able to share that moment together was also really nice. I think for me, transferring was also a really big achievement. Being able to know that I came so far and I was able to be recognized by different schools and be admitted into their schools as well was something that I also hold special as well.
And what do you think makes LACC different from other schools?
It's probably the community. The school is very scrappy in terms of, it's not a 4-year or is not as highly regarded compared to other community colleges, but it's in the heart of LA and there's so much diversity here and the professors here really care about the students. And yeah, each student will have their own experiences, but to me, it was being able to be surrounded by so many different people that were really strong-minded and were really passionate and wanted to better themselves. A lot of the students here really want a better future for themselves or just explore something new, but also be really passionate about. Because, yeah, sometimes we'll have classes with, 17-year-olds, and suddenly we have a 70-year-old student as well. But, there's no discrimination against anyone. It's more of, we're all students here, and we're all trying to achieve greater things. And I think that, to us, really stands out in terms of LACC from what I know and seeing how many students took initiatives, creating clubs or advocating for themselves and their peers as well. It was something that was extraordinary and something that I haven't seen anywhere else to that level.
Talk about your transfer experience. So transferring from LACC to UCLA, what was that journey like? Did you receive support from LACC? How was that journey for you?
It was tricky. I think to so many other students, it's the most proud moments of their lives, and it's the happiest moments for their lives. But for me, it took a turn. I got into a lot of the schools that I would have dreamed to go to. I got into USC or SCAD or even out of state as well. And I had all these options, and obviously I chose UCLA at the end, but keeping in that mentality of how I ended off in high school and now knowing I can be a better version of myself, I put too much pressure and strain on my body and my mental health to the point where I felt ill. Literally 2 weeks before graduation, I did not attend the graduation for 2024. I was supposed to walk and stuff, but I felt ill. A lot of panic attacks and anxiety.
It's a lot of pressure.
I just put way too much strain on my body and I couldn't do anything anymore. So it was in and out of hospitals for 2 months during that summer. And it was really stressful. Professor Klein and the department heads, as well as the chairs and other professors, always kept in touch with me, checking in on me. My friends would also come visit me as well, which was really, really heartwarming and being supported by everyone. But it was just really heartwarming just seeing how professors really care about you. Mm-hmm. It was 2 months like that in the hospital. So a lot of transfer was out of my mind. Mm-hmm. But I had all of these resources here at LACC that helped me navigate. My counselors here at LACC also helped make the transition a little bit smoother, making sure my transcripts were sent out on time and making sure everything was correctly sorted out. And yeah, same thing as at UCLA. I reached out to them. We had a person that was part of the Design Media Arts program who had phone calls with me and made sure that I was feeling okay, and if I was ready to come into UCLA. I got support in terms if I needed extra time before I started. So I didn't have to come in that fall quarter. I could have come in maybe 2 or 1 quarter after that. They helped kind of just smooth that transition, and eventually I got better and I decided to attend that fall and I was able to complete my first quarter there. But even then, as a UCLA student currently, I still keep in touch with my professors here, and sometimes I'll come in to volunteer and help out during their classes, assisting other students. I think what really helped out was knowing that I had that support from people. Even though it was the worst moments of my life, going through that and being in the hospital in and out, it was still the most special to me because it also showed me these are my friends and they care about me. And,
you have a community around you.
And I had all that support as well. And it made me a little bit stronger and just made me sure that I was going to be able to come through and be there, complete my time at UCLA and be the best version of myself.
That's really, really great that you had that support, and it seems like you found some really great people. Okay, I've just got 2 more questions for you. Are there any games that you think would be really good for people who are starting to get into games, like interactive games, world building, stuff like that?
It's really hard to say. I guess like everything else, games have that special place in people's hearts, and each person has their own interests and tastes. For me, I'm more of like, I love horror games, so I love to get chased around by scary things and keep my heart pounding at all times. But I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, and other people might like different type of games. But I think exploring the world of indie games, especially separating what AAA or AA games versus indie games, can also help impact students or people getting into games. Indie games are more solo developers or a smaller team compared to a full-scale studio like Capcom or Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica. So you see that difference between the two. But I think for me, playing the more impactful storytelling games would be a recommendation of mine, because a lot of filmmaking goes into the cutscenes as well as that story. You could almost envision it being adapted into a film. So a lot of story-driven games and adventure games. Maybe The Last of Us would be a good one. That one's a big popular one, but the story is really strong. For me, I would recommend maybe Resident Evil 8. That one's a little bit more impactful storytelling-wise. It's not like the most action-oriented game compared to everything else, but the story stands out where you're playing as a father and you're trying to rescue your daughter. Death Stranding is a big one. The overview of that game is you're delivering packages, but you're walking. So a lot of the gameplay will be 30 minutes of you just walking from point A to point B.
Interesting.
But it's a creativity and how visually stunning the game is also something that's really spectacular to me. That game really uses music and a lot of different musicians to really amplify the game. Also playing with your friends, if you can play multiplayer games and exploring that a little bit more, could also be a great intro to games, because then that allows you to kind of just experience that with someone that you care about as well.
Okay. And then what is next for you, and what do you see for your future or the next steps?
I guess for me, so I currently did my capstone this quarter. So I'm graduating in December. So this is my last couple of quarters. Thank you. I'm trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. But I also had such a big impact here at LACC, and the impact the professors had on me, which also made me want to teach. So at UCLA, I was part of the Visual Arts and Performing Arts program as well, where we got to go teach at community schools and different high schools and middle schools. And that was really impactful to me, being in the classroom and being able to teach. But I would love to pursue creating more art and getting that experience. And then maybe when I'm a lot older, or I feel ready or confident enough that I can pass along valuable lessons to students, I'll pursue teaching as a career as well. But I think for now, I think it's just kind of just keep creating and just exploring other things.
Nice. Okay. And the last question I have for you is, what advice do you have for students or kids that were in a kind of a position like you when you were coming out of high school and you weren't really sure if like going into higher education was the right step for you? Do you have any advice or words of wisdom for someone?
The more important aspect is what you're passionate about, whether you might be interested in being a writer, a journalist, a game designer, or anything in the world you might want to do. Keep exploring. It's always great to explore different classes, different programs, and seeing what is out there, especially being in such a diverse school where you can just take any classes you want, regardless of where you are in terms of your career or your ambitions. You can take any classes, and you won't be restricted to being part of just one program, similar to a 4-year that you're only restricted to a lot of singular program or sequences. So taking advantage of that diversity in classes and exploring and making connections. You're not alone is another big one. And just have fun. That's the most important part of it. Just be yourself, have fun, and just be the best you. That would be my biggest advice. Just take out any of the negativity as well and just be as positive as you can, because realistically you're in school mainly for yourself and this is going to be your future. So have fun with it and don't really pressure yourself or put yourself in that mentality that's boring or you don't want to be there. It's more like, I guess, seeing the brighter picture at the end.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Luis, so much for joining me today and sharing your story. It was really great hearing about your journey, your creativity, and your experience at LACC. And thank you all for listening to International Student Stories, brought to you by Study in the USA and Los Angeles City College. We'll see you next time. Bye.